Namaste. Welcome to Mental Health and Wellness with Divya Hari. Before we begin, let me ask you a few questions. Do you use your phone when you eat? Are you aware when your mood changes? Do you live in the moment, or do you live in the past, or do you live in the future? I'm sure you must have had a lot of thoughts when I asked these questions. Our topic for today is mindfulness. To talk about mindfulness, we have with us today Ms. Anshita. Anshita holds a master's degree in Counselling Psychology. Let us welcome her on our show today. Hi Anshita, welcome on our show.
Hi, thanks for inviting me.
I started off this episode by asking a few questions about how if people use their mobile phones while eating,
Right.
or whether a person is aware whether their mood changes.
Right.
So this itself are indicators of mindfulness, right?
Correct.
So to start off with, could you tell us what mindfulness is?
Okay. In the most basic understanding, what mindfulness is about, it's purposely bringing your attention to maybe your thoughts, feelings, or a thing in the moment that you are. It's a moment-to-moment awareness. And you do it purposely without any judgment, without evaluating what you're doing, without evaluating the thoughts and feelings that is coming up to you. So basically, it is a moment-to-moment awareness that you bring about, and you do not evaluate that. So you're basically being aware of things from a very kind light, from a very gentle light, without
non-judgmental light.
A non-judgmental light, exactly. So that is what mindfulness is basically.
Okay, and thank you for explaining what mindfulness is, right? Now that we've explained what mindfulness is, why is it important for us to be mindful? So a lot of times, including at home when I'm eating, I don't like using my phone when I'm eating, or when someone else is using their phone when they are eating, I ask them not to do that. Right? So could you tell us what are the reasons for not using the phone while eating in terms of mindfulness as a general umbrella term?
Right. I know it's very annoying or irritating when our family or someone older than us have always asked us to not use our phones.
Yes.
But there's actually a very good reason for it, exactly as you're saying. The number one reason is that when you're doing things mindlessly, which would be the opposite of mindfulness, you're basically not using your brain as much, or there is not much brain activity that is happening, and that's a really harmful way to live a life. You being mindless can actually lead to a lot of concerns, including stress and anxiety, because you don't have a proper understanding of what is exactly happening. So that causes a lot of concerns. So this is why, at least that is one of the biggest reasons why we should be more mindful, and we don't actually understand how often we are actually mindless in our nature. We do things by default, we are always on autopilot. The moment we even wake up, we immediately move to our phones, or we actually don't even take a pause when we are actually going about our routine. For example, we immediately get off the bed, make our bed, we immediately go to brush, and you'll realize you're not doing any of it with a lot of awareness. It's just a routine, so your body takes you wherever you're going. So that is actually mindlessness. So yeah, that is mindlessness. And what being mindful would be that you don't have to do exactly, big mindful activities, but it could be as small as pausing before you start brushing, or even when you're trying to wear clothes, just being really mindful of what color am I going to wear today. Taking a pause itself is such a mindful activity that you can incorporate. So,
intentionally choosing things,
intentionally, bringing into awareness of your choices. So this is also why mindfulness is important, is because when you give that pause, you're giving yourself that freedom, or that a momentary gap where you have that intentional choice. So that itself has a lot of brain activity involved, So it's helpful. It's really helpful. Even the brain activity that happens, yeah, basically that is what we need. That is what we need to concentrate better or have lower levels of stress. Basically, have better emotional regulation. That is why we need that brain activity happening, and mindfulness can really help you do that. So yeah.
Like how you mentioned about how taking a pause before doing things, right? So if not having an entire meal without your phone, maybe when you're starting the meal, actually chewing and actually enjoying what you're eating, right? So not just with regards to mental health, this is going to have an impact on your physical health too.
Correct.
Because you're going to just eat while you're doom scrolling on your phone. You're not focusing on your food. You're not focusing on the nutrition you're intaking.
Right.
So, like you mentioned, it is important for us to give momentary mindful moments.
Right.
Right? So, my therapist also mentioned this in one of my sessions, that mindfulness is a lifestyle. It's not an activity, or it is not a luxury, or it is not something which enlightened people do. It is a lifestyle wherein you incorporate small, tiny, mindful activities one at a time, and before you know it, it is a part of you. Right?
Right.
So we spoke about what mindfulness is and why it is important. A lot of people don't know how they can be mindful. So we've spoken about its importance, but when we talk about how, we are like, okay, what do I do? So can you tell us how a person can be more mindful?
Okay. Notice in your life how often you're mindless first. The very common points in your life, moments in your life where you actually don't notice how mindless you are. That would be probably the first step, just to notice and be aware of the moments that you are actually mindless.
Can you give examples?
The biggest example would be scrolling your phone without actually having an intention. I think scrolling your phone is one of the most dangerous ways of being mindless, because we think we're having a lot of fun, we're intentionally seeing things, like it feels that way, but what you're actually doing is just scrolling through things. You're not actually aware of what exactly you're scrolling through.
And how much you're intaking and what you're intaking also.
Exactly. Sometimes we don't even realize how many subliminal messages that we take in. Like, we don't understand how many things get into our subconscious without our understanding. But that's the thing that mindfulness will help cancel out. Mindfulness would actually help us understand what we are letting into our subconscious also. What kind of item or news or components are we taking into our minds? So I guess mindless scrolling would be one thing. If you observe, there are a lot of other mindless activities that we may be doing. For example, yeah, if there are people who are working employees, maybe the first thing that you do is, like you wake up, you immediately go into your routine wherein you use the washroom, you take a bath, you brush your teeth. But even that is in such a routinely manner that you're actually not thinking about it, right? So, as I said, let's take a pause. So before you even pick up a call, just let's take a pause. Who is calling me? Okay. Feel that call coming in. Or when you're even brushing, like actually brushing in a very slow and mindful manner where you're aware how you're brushing your teeth. Even that is so helpful in, moment to moment. Even things like taking a bath. Even small activities like, okay, how am I going to start my bathing routine today? Should I start with my hair? Should I start with my body? All of these mindful activities can really help us. But for that to even happen, we have to be very aware of where we are mindless in life. So I think that's one way to be mindful. I think other ways would be actual mindful activities, wherein when you can actually start doing mindful meditation, where the objective of meditation, which is not to have a blank space or blank mind, but actually let your thoughts come in, but you put your focus on your breath and be mindful of your breath, how you breathe in, how you breathe out, whatever thoughts come in. The main point is to not judge it, to not evaluate what kind of thoughts are coming, what are not coming. you let it pass by, you take a note of it, you acknowledge it, and you let it pass by. So that's a very beautiful mindful meditation aspect that people can do. But yeah, that's I think would be mostly it.
And thank you for educating us about mindfulness.
Right.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Take care, stay safe. Thank you.
Click on the bell icon to watch our latest videos.